jump in today's topic. So today's topic is around ways to prep your team for closing deals in a rough Q4. So I think like a lot of people out there, what's going to happen next? What's going on with the economy? I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what's going to happen. What I can say is this, is that the teams that win and the teams that are successful are the teams that prepare for the downside. And what I mean by that is I very specifically remember when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, there were probably 90% of teams didn't have a mechanism in place for optimization. So these teams were basically like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Our product, the value prop that we had before is not the value prop that we have today, et cetera. A very small fraction of those people, let's say the 10%, had a process in place. And so what did they do? Well, they had ideas on what the value prop would look like if the economy went bad. They had ideas on new markets or shifting markets, and they were able to pivot extremely quickly. And so for anyone out there, this type of prep, okay, isn't just about the, doomsday or it can really be about optimization. That if you have a process in place that where you're constantly looking at your value prop, whether it's a bad economy or just changing conditions, you're going to be able to pivot and, grow and thrive. All right. So let's jump in here. All right. What's going on? And as usual, if you're joining on LinkedIn or on the Zoom, feel free to drop in the chat just where you're joining us from. It's always fun to see. If you have questions around prepping, maybe you've got a very specific question around your business or your product and pivoting, I'm happy to jump into those as well too. But today we're going to try to jump into, let's call it what I did in my previous lives to thrive in down economies. So I'm going to also drop here in the link, a link in the comments, which is for our conference coming up next Wednesday. So a little bit of housekeeping. Next Wednesday is Forefront. Forefront is going to be an amazing, it's like 3.5 hours to block your calendar. I've got every thought leader you can imagine. I've got people that are practitioners. I've got RevOps leaders from some of the biggest companies that you know. And we're talking about what comes next. And we're talking about what's working today. How has sales evolved? So if you are truly a sales professional or you're a sales leader who's trying to up their track, their game, we have a track for you as well too. So we've got a sales leadership talk track. We've got a revenue operations track. We've got a salesperson track as well. So anything that you want in terms of, growing your skill set, we've got something for you. So we are going to jump in now. So the first thing, again, the topic for today is 5 ways to prep your team for closing deals in a rough Q4. I'll start with something that if you follow my content, you've definitely heard me say it before. It's that closing isn't like it's a thing, meaning like closing is actually the outcome from a well-executed process. So think about that again. Closing. We always think about sales. We think about closing, right? Closing deals. The reality is, and I don't know when in my career this kind of epiphany happened, when I realized that if you just do the steps, like at every step, and you execute to your best of your ability, it either kind of happens or it doesn't, as a part of that. So at the end, it's like, look, I've done everything I can at step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to put myself in the best possible position to win the business. And so for anyone out there, that's one of the most important things that I can teach you, is I can teach you that if you want to get better at closing in this quarter, make sure you're executing the steps correctly. Sales, again, closing is an outcome. Okay. So I'm going to go through the 5 things that I would do right now really quickly, and I'll copy and paste these in here to prepare for Q4. So 1 is what I had mentioned before, which is around setting up time for you and your team to think about this. So I just dropped it here in the comments around outbound messaging. Okay. So outbound messaging is, at least in my opinion, is probably the one area where people sleep on, the most, where people don't do a very good job of really just thinking through like what goes into a great message and thinking through like, how would I pivot this? So step one is everyone, all of you listening, should take at least 3 to 4 hours in the next week or two and rewrite your messaging as if the economy hit a massive wall. If you do that, what you'll do is you'll start to realize that you get better and better at the value prop. It gets tighter and tighter. It gets better and better. The more that you think about, okay, well, all right, so these people, how's this going to affect them? Well, it's actually going to hurt them pretty hard. Okay, well, if it hits them pretty hard, what are the things that they're going to be thinking about? Because people buy during down economies. Like, it happens. The world doesn't completely stop. So again, that's number one. Number one is just take the time to do the exercise to think about what would my buyer look for in a new economy? If the economy was poor, if it wasn't going well, what would I look for? That's number one. All right. I'm going to do here. Number two. This is so critical. Okay. I'm going to drop this in the comments for everybody so you can see it as well. All right. So what else do I see happening more and more? It's that there's a lot of people that are involved in the sales process today, but we struggle to keep them engaged in the process. So what does that mean? It means that we get all these different people. You've probably heard it a million times. There's, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, however many people are involved in the sales process. There's a lot of people, right? And then what happens is we don't keep those people engaged throughout. We have a good meeting with someone. We maybe have a couple good meetings, and then we don't keep those people engaged. Okay. And in today's world, we also like to do things on our own time. So again, that's things like, sending people some information ahead of time, sending people, a link or a testimonial, just anything that they can do to educate themselves as well too. So that is number two, is that when the economy is tough, people are totally in cover your ass mode, right? CYA mode is what you call it. And so you've got to make sure that you are the one being the glue. You are the one doing what you can to pull them together whenever possible. So that's number two. All right. Number three, when the economy is bad, what do you need to do to close more deals? All right. Focus on intent to move the right deals along faster. Okay. What does this mean? If you've been following my content for the last probably 2 months or so, 2 or 3 months at least, I've been talking about this thing called intent-based sales. Okay. And what intent-based sales is a new way to think about sales, which is think about the level of education that a customer could come into your sales funnel with today. Some people are going to come in cold. They don't know a lot about you. They're kind of interested in the space. Other people are going to come in and they've done their research. They've done their homework. They've talked to 3 peers, somebody who's used your product, etc. And the issue that I see right now is we're putting a lot of people through the exact same process, no matter how educated you are, or how educated they are, I should say. And so when I think about this concept of intent-based sales, okay, what I should be thinking about is when people come to me and they're interested, can I fast track them? Can I meet people? Can I really spend that first call to diagnose, okay, where is this person? Okay, are they further along? Are they less along? Where is this person in their journey and how can I help them? And I think right now what happens is, again, we kind of treat everybody the same. We do the same qualification-based discovery, and we're not really understanding, okay, has this person been educated? Wow, okay, well, this person actually knows X, Y, Z and all these things. Like, okay, right? So that would be a big one for all of you is make sure that your first conversation is helping to diagnose how far along in the journey they are so you can meet them where they're at. Okay, you're really early? No problem. Let me start you back here. Let's start with the education, right? Oh, you're further along? Okay, let's get you to a demo really quick. Let's get you what you need. Let's get you pricing, etc. All right. Let's see here. All right, this is a great one. So number 4 here is a little bit long. It's a 2-parter. All right. So number 4. If you don't know how a company makes money, you are going to struggle to tell a good story. And what I mean by this, just for everyone out there, it's that this is the first question that I used to ask my sales team. They'd come to me, they'd ask me about a deal. They'd ask me about, something happening with a company, et cetera, and, their advice. And I'd say, okay, great. How does the company make money? And they, after a while, they got wise to it. And so they knew to bring that to me, because that would be the first question that I asked. But the reason that I asked that question was, if you don't know how the company makes money, how can you help them? And I don't care what product you sell. If you don't know, let's say you sell into industrial manufacturing. If you don't know the pains, the issues, and what goes into being successful as an operations manager in industrial manufacturing, how can you help their business no matter what you sell? And so in a down economy in particular, it goes back to the very first part of the message that I gave you. You really have to think about, okay, how do they make money? Okay, well, they do this, they do that. Okay, well, when the economy goes bad, what are they really going to be thinking about? Okay. So again, whether it's in the outbound messaging or whether it's in the actual pitch itself, right? I can think about how to relay like that different type of value prop based on where they're at. And so for everyone out there, and again, a lot of these things, you might be listening and say, Jake, these are always the things that go into, a great sales process. And you're right. The key is in these times when things get rough, and I'll just tell you guys, kind of a little bit about my background. So I started there's a company, some of you will remember it, called Career Builder. It's still around. But at the time in the late 2000s, they were the number one job site in the world, or in the US. There was no LinkedIn. LinkedIn had just kind of started out. And for those of you who remember, 2007 hit, 2008, right? Financial markets exploded, right? And I sold job advertising and job details. And I in 2007, 8, and 9, and then I, left to take over as the head of sales at Glassdoor and stayed in that space. And my team in 2007, 2008, when I took over the team in early 2007, we were the number one team for 2 years in a row, both the years that I managed the team, in percent to quota. And how did we do that? Why were we successful? How were we selling job ads and, recruitment advertising plans, et cetera? Well, it's because my team knew how to talk to the business. We knew how to say, look, you might not be hiring a lot of people, but you're probably looking for these types of people. And I'm an expert in how I'm going to help you to find software engineers for this company, or CNC machinist, which I still don't know what that means, but I learned the lingo. But that's what it is. I made my team experts at getting to know the business. And we talked about business challenges. And that's why we were successful. And so last, but certainly not least, this is one of my favorite ones. I've talked quite a bit about this in the past too. Let's see, here we go. All right. Number 5 here is the number one champion in a deal has to be you. And this is a big one, especially when times are a little uncertain. Again, people have so many different priorities. You got to put yourself in your customer's shoes, your buyer's shoes. They've got a million things going on. Maybe they just had to do a round of layoffs. Maybe their department got squeezed. All these different things that, again, I think so often people just don't do a very good job of really thinking about it. And so instead, what they do is they get this first point of contact with Rachel or whoever, and then they think Rachel's going to do the work for them. And it's one of the reasons why the term champion, I'm not a massive fan of this. Like, trust me, I've had it happen before. I've had champions in deals. It's awesome. It's like, oh my God, like this person is literally doing this for me. But I've also closed extremely large deals, 6- and 7-figure deals, with no champion. There are people that were like into what we were doing, but there was no magic person here just shepherding me around and setting up all the meetings for me. I had to do it. And so if you go into this with a mindset that the part of sales role, especially in a tough economy or with lots of stakeholders, is to be the project manager. is to be the champion for that deal for that company. And now, again, that's assuming you really feel like you can help them. And that's a really big, I guess like if, it's a part of it. The second piece I will bring up though, 5B, if you're watching along here as well too, is it doesn't mean you can't get help, whether that's internal or external. I think a big issue I see is a lot of reps don't leverage their leadership team. When I was closing big deals, that's immediately that's what I do. I'd bring in the CEO, I'd bring in whoever. Like, I realized that to get bigger deals done, I needed to know. I used to call it, I would break glass, grab the CEO, make them go do a little song and dance, pick them back up and put them back in the box. I'm like, cool, thanks. All right, go away. But I knew that there were times when I needed to bring in a level that was just different than me. Not that I couldn't care. I could carry the conversation fine. But a CEO is going to tell a story different. Your RVP or your head of sales or head of operations or success, they're going to tell a story different. And so, when I thought about my role as a seller, it was to be the person who brought the right people to the table, right? Again, I didn't rely on a champion on my customer side, right? I knew I had to be the collaborator there, right? I didn't rely on just trying to do it all myself. That was dumb. Why would I do that? Why would I try to do the deal all myself? Like, why spend all that mental calories and there's like effort to do that whenever I could have people that would, go and do it for me. So I became really great at looping in others and looping in execs. And, again, it helped me to hit my number. It helped me to be very, very, very successful. So those are my 5 things. So if you're prepared for a rough Q4, because here's what's up. When you learn to make these habits and parts of the process your daily, if the economy is good, you crush it. It's like, if you know how to do everything I just laid out really well when the economy's bad, when the economy's good, when you execute this, it's over, right? So for a lot of you out there, I want you to really think about that. Again, like, are you doing are you doing these kind of harder things now because you have to, because it's going to make you much more wildly successful future. And so again, I hope this helps some of you. Q4, if you can believe it or not, we're almost like, if you count the holidays, we're like halfway done with Q4. So again, not knowing what the economy is going to do, not knowing what's going to happen, these are my top 5 for you, right? Make sure you have a process, plan ahead to iterate your outbound. Make sure you're keeping people engaged, content, other things ahead of time and throughout. Make sure when you really focus that first meeting on just understanding where someone's intent is. Make sure you understand how your industry makes money and the companies that you serve make money. And 5, and certainly not least, is you have to be the champion. You've got to be the one to move deals along. And you've got to be the one who helps to make it happen. And so I just dropped the link in here as well. So again, if you want to make sure you don't miss another episode, we're going to be doing this, like I said, on a mix of Zoom and LinkedIn. So if you like just watching on LinkedIn, you're fine. But sign up for the Modern Leader. We are doing a lot here. We've got a bi-weekly newsletter that goes out all on different topics in leadership. We've got the Monday live like we're doing now. We're doing in-person dinners. We've got a dinner coming up. If you're in Miami, hit me up. We've got a sales leadership dinner I'm doing with my friend Matt Cameron down there. We've got one in New York in December. And we're, again, we're really doing a lot here to provide high quality content for, leaders that are looking to be, on the forefront and on the leading edge. So again, if you're just tuning in here, I'll drop the link one last time too. Do not forget to sign up. You can use my promo code and get 20% off. We have our Forefront conference on a week from Wednesday. It is, I'm telling you, you can go look at the lineup. The lineup's silly. Literally every sales leader if you're watching me now, and you go check out the lineup, you're going to see probably all the sales leaders that you follow are going to be there talking. This is really a once a year type opportunity. It's a virtual conference, so you don't have to be in person to join. So I hope this helps some of you out there. I hope you're able to take some of these concepts, ideas, bring them to your leadership team, bring them to your next team meeting, to make sure that you're, staying ahead and staying on the forefront of changes in sales. All right, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Have a happy Monday. Close out October strong, and we will see you next week.